Oh, I think we have all of our guests here. Hi, Encore. How are you? Can he hear us?
I hope so.
Oh, okay, there he is.
Hey, Anchor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you just fine
Okay.
now.
Hi.
All right, I guess we'll go ahead and get
Get started.
started. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, all of our guests are here and it's gonna be a very, very exciting discussion today. All right, so I'm Mia Edgerton Fulton, and I am the co-founder and co-CEO of Scholarly Scouts, as well as a biomedical sciences PhD candidate at the Medical University of South Carolina.
And I'm Donald Fulton, also co-founder, co-CEO, and I'm a clinical research manager at Rowan University. And I want to thank you all for showing up to, get into what clinical research is about and just dive straight into it. So I want everyone, all our panelists to, do a short introduction of, who they are, where they work, something small about themselves. So we can get it introduced. So you want to start with,
Oh, yes. So the way we'll do this, because we have three panelists this time, this is the
yeah.
first time we've had
Mhm.
three guests. So we'll start with Jade, then we'll let Alexis go, and then Encore Kid take it away. So the first question we'll start with is everyone giving a brief introduction about themselves. So go right ahead, Jade.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to sit on this panel today. Really excited to chat with everyone. So I am Jade Tuttle. I am based in Charleston, South Carolina. By education, I'm a licensed master social worker, and by profession, I am a principal patient diversity specialist at PPD, which is a part of Thermo Fisher Scientific. And do you want us to go ahead and explain our roles, Mia, or should we hold off on that?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Okay, great. So my team at PPD is called the Patient Diversity Team. And basically, to try to summarize it, we are working to embed inclusive strategies throughout the clinical trial life cycle and working across the clinical trial industry in order to improve the representation of historically underserved and underrepresented communities in clinical trials. My primary focus within the team is I oversee the development and delivery of our education and training programs for patient diversity. And I also serve a little bit of time sitting on direct studies as well, supporting our pharmaceutical and biotech sponsors as a strategic advisor to ensure that the strategies that we've planned out for their studies are actually being carried through. So I can't wait to share more, and I'll hand it off to Alexis.
Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, forgive my voice. I'm just getting over from being under the weather, but as they mentioned, I'm Alexis. I am based here in Charleston. I am a clinical data analyst at Federal Healthcare Network, which is an FQHC here in Charleston. We work to serve the underserved in the community, giving them a place to go, a clinic to go to where if they don't have the funds to pay for their doctor's visits, it's okay. We still see them. So my role is basically working on a clinical quality improvement project for our women in the community who are battling diabetes or are at risk for diabetes. Working with MUSC, giving them the chance to have free endocrinology visits, nutrition visits, watching their numbers, trying to prevent or delay the diagnosis of diabetes. Um, we do group sessions where they work out together. We also do group cook-alongs, just stuff to let them know that they have a community that's backing them, and then also making sure we're watching like lab result numbers, making sure they don't go too high, dip too low, just trying to make sure we can prevent or delay that diagnosis.
Hi. So, can everyone hear me? Okay. So, my name is Ankur Nyanmote, and I also work with Jade at PPD Thermo Fisher. I work in the Regulatory and Patient Document Specialist Department. I hail from an academic background. I spent almost over 15 years doing basic life science research. And most of my work was with animals and cells and informatics. So when I moved into medical writing, it was a big jump from animals to people. And so my department focuses particularly on informed consent forms, which are patient-facing documents that are a critical step between a patient participating in a clinical trial by getting themselves informed and then giving a consent based on that information. So that is my main role at PPD Thermo Fisher. And it's a pleasure to be here.
That is so interesting. I'm so excited that everyone, shared their educational background and, how did they, like my next question, it leads me into my next question about how did you guys find your way into the clinical research industry?
All right, I'll kick that one off. So I will say that I think that first of all, the clinical trial research industry found me. I did not think in the beginning that I would be going down this route. I kind of was, honestly, I started out in community-based services and case management, working very closely with families with the Disabilities Board of Charleston County. And prior to that, I had done a lot of other community-based service roles. And, with that kind of work, it is easy to get burned out. And that's exactly what happened to me, unfortunately. But I shouldn't say unfortunately, because it led me to kind of consider, where can I go from here? And I had participated in some undergraduate research assistant positions. And I thought, let me see what MUSC might have. So I ended up getting a position with the Institute of Psychiatry with a research team in the Addiction Sciences Division. I spent several years working there as a research coordinator. And during my time, I began to really notice there were some major gaps in the research industry. There was a lot of underrepresentation of certain groups versus others. Ethically, I was asking myself a lot of questions. What are we doing as an industry to address this? Why is this happening? And ultimately, that's actually what led me to get my master's in social work degree. So it was really kind of this pivotal point where I kind of took a chance and entered back into the research field. And then it kind of led me from there. So like I said, research found me. I didn't really find it, and it was definitely for a reason.
So I would say I've spent, although it doesn't look like I'm old enough, I have spent upwards of maybe 12 years in basic science research myself, from microbiology, cancer, renal, until I got to neuroscience. And that kind of was my landing point. I spent a lot of time in neuroscience research, doing stroke rehabilitation research. Then I moved on to insulin resistance and the travel of insulin to the brain. And that's where I kind of finally stuck. I did do some research in neurosurgery that kind of put me on the path to clinical research. I love that research, standing in the OR for hours and seeing people's lives change. That helped a lot. But after going back to basic science and working with insulin, it was so much relatable for me, being that I do have a lot of people in my family who have diabetes. So I wanted to make that a thing. So I went from the basic science portion straight into clinical and trying to see if I can prevent that as much as possible, delay it, help people live as healthy as they can with it. So that was kind of my pathway into the clinical area.
So my background also resonates a lot with what Alexis just described, and so lots of hours spent in the lab looking through microscopes, analyzing data, doing surgeries on animals. I worked basically my doctorate was in toxicology, and the research problem that we worked on was how do tissues repair themselves after injury, which kind of led me to my postdoctoral work, which was how tissues develop in the first place. So from tissue repair, I went into embryonic development, which led to computational biology. And I don't know if it was burnout or existential crisis looking at the deep questions of life, but I had to like go to India like everyone does. And so I left the States after like being there for 11 years and went to India and spent some time teaching critical reasoning and analytical writing skills to undergrad students who are applying for grad schools. So that journey kind of led me from very reductionist, hard database science to the more social aspects of learning and thinking. Like the teaching job particularly made me think about the importance of evaluating information based on evidence and drawing conclusion only by thinking about every piece of information by applying rigorous reasoning and then coming to conclusions and then changing your mind if the evidence comes that is, that challenges your worldview. So all these experiences kind of led me back to research briefly, and then COVID happened, which again created an interesting circumstance to reconsider the path of like where we're going. So I serendipitously came across medical writing, and then I started learning more about what it involves. And since it involves the skill set that it calls for is a basic understanding of science and a love for writing or communication, that concrescence basically just got me excited. And that's how I landed over there. I probably went over 3 or 4 minutes, but that's how I've come into clinical research to that.
Well, I really appreciate each and every one of you for providing that insight and telling us, exactly how it is and how you found your way into the industry. Because right now it's just very competitive to get into these spaces. So I think it's very good for all of our attendees to know just how you guys went about that and that it's possible to transfer from these basic science backgrounds into the clinical research industry. So our third question we wanted to ask you guys, so what does a typical day look like while navigating your specific position?
That is a loaded question. My day is honestly, no day is quite the same in our role. There has really been a huge push in the entire clinical research industry to advance and improve the ways that we are recruiting and enrolling and retaining our patients. A lot of this does come from a recent guidance that was passed by the FDA, which the FDA is the agency that essentially approves and monitors the safety of the treatments and the interventions and the biomedical devices that are being released to the public. They released a guidance that was actually mandated by US Congress last year, requiring any study, any pharmaceutical sponsor or any sponsor really, that could be a pharmaceutical company, the NIH, the biotech industry, anyone submitting what is called a phase 3 trial or a pivotal trial, are required to submit a diversity plan. So with that requirement now coming through, it's kind of created a huge ripple effect around the world, really, and especially through a lot of communities. So we're seeing this huge urgency and this huge push for better strategies for better engagement opportunities with communities and patients. And as a result of that, that is kind of why every day is a little bit different for myself as well as everyone on our team. We could, be attending presentations with clients to educate them on what we can do here at PPD, what our patient diversity team is working towards as strategies. I may be delivering a training right after that, whether it be to a group of our medical writers. Me and Ankur have actually paired up on a couple of education initiatives with PPD on medical writing and how medical writing has such a huge part to play in ensuring that we are reaching the patients that we need to be reaching and meeting them where they are, especially when it comes to health literacy, ability to digest information about clinical trials. So then after that, I may find myself bouncing around between team meetings and then attending webinars such as this. There's also occasionally a little bit of travel involved. I do have the opportunities I'm thankful for to go to conferences as well as industry-sponsored events to be able to witness panels, sit on panels, engage people across the industry. So it's really, I guess you could say in a summary, my day-to-day is very social. It is an incredibly social role, and I have to be ready to pivot at any minute's notice and adjust to the audience that I'm speaking to in order to deliver the strong message that we need to be providing to promote the support and advocate for the resources in order to fulfill this job. So very long-winded question. I saw that, by the way, the question on the sheet you had emailed already, Mia, and I'm like, whew, that's going to be a tough one. I've stewed on it for a while, but that's about as concise as I can get.
Well, mine is not very long-winded, but as Jade said, no day is the same. Absolutely. Most of my days include recruitment, retention, outreach. Since I am working within a clinic and we have upwards of maybe 10 clinics, I spend a lot of time networking with the providers, nurses, anybody who's seeing patients for that day. Most of the time I will look at their schedule, see if anybody sticks out that may benefit from the program. I'll send them a note, hey, this person is eligible, please inform them. Our dietitian, she sends me maybe like 3 patients a day. So I have to immediately reach out to them, forward them to our nutritionist that's on the actual research project, and then we go from there. Some days are sitting and staring at data on the computer for 5-6 hours. It just depends. So it's very different, but it all comes together at the end of the week. We have a lot of meetings about our research, a lot of meetings, but it's for everybody to just come together and share what data they've gotten for the week, share our retention numbers. We do a lot of patient engagement sessions or participant engagement sessions just to gauge how our participants are feeling in the program, how the providers are feeling with us sending them people in the program. So there's a lot that goes into it, but no day is definitely the same.
Yeah, so I don't want to say that my day is absolutely predictable because just like Jade and Alexis, it's definitely different. But the pace at which things change might probably be not as dynamic. So if I'm working for a client, so in our case, the client would be a pharmaceutical company who is trying to get a drug approved, and they're working on the documents that they have to submit to the regulatory agencies and the ethics committee or the review board for getting approval. We will have constant discussions and meetings with them, trying to understand what their requirements are, what the nuances of their study design is, and what kind of document details do we need to provide in the informed consent for it to be patient-centric, because that's the main focus of all the writing work that we do. And like Jade mentioned, a lot of the overlap between what Jade's department does and what we do is this growing relevance of looking at patients first and their concerns first, and how we can empower their voice in the participation of clinical trials. So from that point of view, everything that I draft in an informed consent form has to arrive at this very fine balance between being scientifically accurate, but at the same time, something that I can convey to a person, a patient, who requires a layperson understanding of that. And that balancing act is honestly the most exciting part of what we do, but also it could get really challenging because it can be very menial sometimes. Like just before getting on this call, I spent a long, frustrating hour trying to correct the formatting on a table that was somehow messed up during the review process. So something like that kind of becomes part of the day-to-day job. However, I must add that there is a lot of new development happening in technology. So the use of machine learning tools and artificial intelligence to kind of make our jobs easier. That's something that has been a part of some other things that I've gotten interested in. So the point to mention that is that even though we do assume roles that might be specific, there are many opportunities to collaborate with other departments, like what I mentioned with Jade, or even this effort with artificial intelligence. So what your interests are could certainly find a relevance that may not directly be about clinical research, but it might be about the process and the workflows that are involved in these complicated processes, right? So that's something to look forward to. That's an exciting part of these jobs.
So, what are some tips that you would give for people who are currently applying for clinical research positions?
Yeah, so this is kind of like a two-part question. We'll just combine it. And also, like, how did networking help you when applying for your positions?
So the one thing I really want to point out when applying for research positions, or really any position, but we'll keep it research focused here, is really honing in on your transferable skills. What I mean by that is looking at your entire profile of what you've done, what are your skill sets, and how could those bring an advantage to the tables where these decisions are being made? How could this be an advantage in terms of potentially, assisting the flow of a trial day to day, say that you're working at the patient level? What do you have to bring that would really elevate your experience and really benefit the patient and caregiver, interaction, or better their experience at the trial site? The list really could go on, but really look into your skill set and try to avoid that tunnel vision that I feel that a lot of us are conditioned to have, right? We say that, well, we have this education or this experience, so we can only do this. That's no longer the case. We can find ways to really pivot and branch out, and by having these conversations, by branching out and talking to people within research, and just asking them questions, can really, really, really bring a lot of awareness into, a lot of self-awareness, and help you really identify what you can truly bring to the table. And I think with that, it ties into Mia's question for networking. I'm trying to, oh yes, so how did networking help me get here today? And it's just like I said, talking to people, really pushing myself to make those connections, even when it might feel awkward, because meeting those people, every person that I've met along the way, and those who I continue to meet, are the things and the factors that are influencing my pathway in research. I never would have known that this was an area of work, right? Health equity intersecting with clinical trials. I really never would have known that if it hadn't had been for a conversation that I had while I was at MUSC with a very notable PI who is doing this very work at the community level. So get out there, talk to people, step outside of your comfort zone, and ask all of the questions.
So for me, I would say always have a reason. Clinical research is not the kind of research where you can just say, I'm going in blind and I'm just going to do it. You always want to go in with a reason. For me, diabetes research is so important to me because I personally know so many people affected by it. That's what will help you give it your all every day. Even it'll help you block out everything around you and just go for it. So always have a reason, always have that strive. As far as networking is something that I'm currently trying to work more on because I get in front of people and I get shy and I cannot do that. But I would definitely say networking is going to be your biggest friend when it comes to navigating in these roles. You want to get your face and your name known by people who's going to bring your name up in conversations and in rooms that will take you to the highest level possible all the time. So networking is going to be your biggest friend. I'm working on it, but I'm going to get better this year, I promise.
Yeah, it's not easy to do that, isn't it? Like, I mean, I completely agree with you, and that's why I was thankful that it was a serendipitous networking opportunity that kind of led to this foray into clinical research. I completely echo the statements that both Jade and Alexis made, that getting out of the comfort zone is something that we have to do because A, it is fun to do it, because it can get really stagnant being in our comfort zone, right? So it's fun to do it, but B, you can open yourself up to opportunities that you've never considered that might be really very much relevant to what you want to do, and that's an exciting possibility to kind of explore. So being open to these things is certainly like a great advice, and that's exactly what I would say too.
Man, oh man, I feel like we really had a really great session. I know we do have like one question in the chat. If you guys like, if somebody wants to answer it in the chat for us, because we probably won't have time to really do a Q&A today, but today was really fantastic, and I really want to just say thank you to each and every one of our panelists. Like, you guys were dynamic. I feel like I just learned so much from you guys.
I know, like, and I've never seen anyone like specifically with Jade that didn't have like a life science background, like a licensed clinical social worker. Like, that's something that's just not really seen. As well as Alexis, with you having all your different experiences with diabetes and cancer, and I just feel like this team was just so perfect, and I want to
Yes.
appreciate y'all for taking time out of y'all day to come speak and help us with this platform.
Yes, and thank you, Encore, because I've really been diving into medical writing, and I really feel like what really just sparked this is how we got connected through networking. So that's how the power of networking is showing through this webinar. So
I was going to say the exact same thing. This is all proof of networking.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So I want to also thank our guests and our scholars that have come out tonight. And also, if anyone needs to refer back to the amazing topics that we discussed tonight, we'll have a recording of tonight's session posted onto the Scholarly Scouts YouTube channel. So that's something we've started. And so next week, you want to tell them about what's going on?
Oh,
Not
yeah.
next week, on the 25th.
Yeah, the 25th. So on the 25th, we're going to be talking about grants and scholarships. We'll have, scholar coming out. Well, 2 scholars, 3 actually.
Yeah, 2 scholars and then
Faculty
faculty
member.
member.
So it's going to be a diverse topic between, from a high school perspective of how to get some scholarships and as of, people that are interested in academia. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, so please, we'll have the registration details up for that this weekend, and we can't wait to host that next session. It's going to be January 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So same place, same time, everybody. And again, thank you to our panelists, Alexis, Encore, Jade. You guys are amazing. We really appreciate it so much.
Thank you again for the opportunity. It's been a really fun panel.
It has. You guys are great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This was fun. Thanks.
Absolutely. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and continue to keep networking, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.